and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with Daniel.
And Daniel.
Good morning, Daniel.
It's afternoon.
It's nice and dark outside. It's clearly the sun hasn't risen yet. That's what I'm going to go with. It's early morning. We're ready to.
It is not early morning. Quit lying to the people.
You drank your breakfast coffee. I'm ready to go. I'm sitting around board games. Therefore, it's morning. If you're joining us live, you'll notice how much I'm lying right now.
Yeah, very much. Through your teeth.
Through my teeth. I opened my teeth because I'm lying so much it would break them if I kept letting them go through the teeth. You can't hold back anymore. Oh goodness, I gotta be silly on a Monday afternoon like this. We gotta have fun with it.
Oh, yeah.
And today we have a very interesting episode for our viewers, don't we?
Oh, yeah, especially we've talked about this before, the format change that we're going to end up doing with everyday, well, not all the time. We're still going to do like our top eights and stuff like that, but we thought it would be interesting. We're known for debates. Our big podcast is the top 8 debate, which we'll be recording a little bit later. And that is, hey, there's 2 games that get compared a lot together. Why don't we take a look at those 2 and compare and contrast them? And that's what our today's episode is going to be. We're going to be looking at Funkoverse and Unmatched.
Yeah, and just so our viewers know, normally in our top 8 debates, we do our best to take out our personal bias in between our debates. This is definitely not the case today. We are biased on these games.
Very much so.
Yeah, you like Unmatched quite a bit, and we like, obviously I like Funkoverse better, and you like Unmatched better. And so
much better.
Instead of just continuously arguing about it, we've seen a lot of people online either take a side, or if they're not, they feel they have to take a side. And they're like, well, which one would make more sense for me? And so what we're hoping to do with this debate, it's not really a debate, but it's going to be Funkoverse versus Unmatched. And we're hoping that we'll provide enough points where somebody who's on the fence on either of these and not sure which one to get into, hopefully this will clarify that for them and help them determine which would be the better choice for them and their game group.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And it'd be interesting because actually our game group, I think it's 2 and 2.
Yeah.
You have Funkoverse. A mutual friend of ours has Funkoverse, and then me and a mutual friend have Unmatched. So it's like,
yeah, exactly. And we both, and it works out because I think all 4 of us actually do like playing both of the games.
Yeah. Like, I only have one issue with the Funkoverse games, real main issue for them. And it has nothing to do with the gameplay itself. The gameplay is fun.
Yep.
It's the fact that they're Funko Pops.
The fact that they're Funko Pops, that's your issue. I get it. That's totally the thing. Some people just don't like Funko Pop. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's stop while we're ahead. And let's say, oh yeah, as we're ready to go. And from there, we are going to be talking about that. But before we do, Daniel, what have you been playing lately?
Well, as always, I have 4 games on my list. Some of them I haven't played recently, but it was during that hiatus that we had. But one of them, the first one I'm going to talk about, is something I just played. And I got it off my shelf of shame. Or as some people call it, the shelf of opportunity, whatever you want to call it. And that is Star Wars Rebellion. And I have to say,
finally
got it off my shelf.
I did not even know you did that. Wow.
Yeah, finally got it off. And so it's what everybody says it is. It's Star Wars in the box. I really enjoyed it. It's really good. It's interesting. You can play up to 4 players. I wouldn't recommend it. In all honesty, it's legit because it's basically splitting the party. You have to give control of like the ground units to one person and the space units to another person. And it's not fun for everybody involved because I'm like, I don't want that person making decisions for the ground. And they probably don't want me making decisions for space. We have to work together about what we want to do. But hey, I'm the admiral. You're the general. Stay down there and worry about the land. And so in all honesty, it's best at 2 players, I think. I haven't tried it with 4, but it feels from what I've read in the rules too, that it'd be a little finicky, especially when you're trying to work with everybody. So there's that. It's difficult if you're playing as the rebels. It fits thematically if you think about it. You're an insurrection who's trying to take over an established government, which being the Empire. And so, yeah, it's going to be a lot harder because you have to draw the hearts and the minds of the universe, of the people. And so, yeah, it's difficult. It was tough. I played as the rebels and I got steamrolled, steamrolled by the Empire. I was getting close. I was getting down there. I think you have to. Your whole goal is to get in the time tracker in the rebel or alliance to meet up. This way, if you meet there, you get the minds of the people and they help you out. Or the Empire is going to find your base and annihilate you. And so that's what ended up happening. I got steamrolled because you're just not pumping out troops like the Empire does. And so that's a bit hard for the rebels. It is really lucky it's a fantasy fight game, so what do you expect? Based on your card draws, you can get some really good cards in the beginning. You can get some really bad cards in the beginning that doesn't help you build what you need to do. And it's all the combat's dice rolls. So you're beholden to hits and guarantees and stuff like that. And then you have to do card checks when you're trying to do missions. So, yeah, there's some issues. But I will have to say it's probably my second favorite Star Wars game behind Outer Rim.
That's awesome. I still need to try this. I mean, I'm not as big of a Star Wars fan as you are, but if they made a Star Trek one,
well, there's this as well. But you also got to think about the fact that this is a massive game for like a two-player game. You look at like something Seven Wonders Duel, and it's got this tiny little footprint on the table. No, this has two full-size boards. So, not to mention all the plastic. It's like it takes up the same space almost as Twilight Imperium 4 at 3 players.
yeah. Okay, that's fair. That sounds cool. Would you recommend it to a gamer like myself?
Sure. I think you'll have fun with it, but I don't think it's going to be something that you'll enjoy. Exactly. You'll have fun with it, but it's not going to be like in your top 10 or top 100 because of how lucky it can be. You'll like if you do play as the rebels, you have to strategize using what resources you have to help you give you a winning chance. I think you'll like that part. But because you're beholden to the draws of the cards and beholden to the dice rolls, I think you'll have a bit of an issue with that.
Wait, are you saying that I have a problem with rolling dice in like two-player combat games? Hold on. Wait a minute.
No, well, the thing is with that, there's ways to mitigate it in Funkoverse. Whereas kind of where this one, your only mitigation is if you got a card in your hand that says, hey, you get to re-roll 2 of your dice. That's really the only mitigation.
That's fair. Okay, cool. Yeah, the next one the first one that I've been playing, most recently, I got to show my kids for the first time Rhino Hero.
Oh,
Actually, my
nice.
daughter for the first time. My son has played it before. My daughter, she had no idea what it was. And this all stemmed because we played a game from Renegade Games. It was like Puppy Circus or Circus Puppy, something like that. And it
Yeah.
was this card stacking game. And in that game, the reason I bring it up is because the cards are like this and there's bends on the top and bottom. And so it's like a C shape that or like a U shape that's facing down. And
Uh-huh.
the cards end up like this. Where in Rhino Hero, you bend them right down the middle and they're an L shape and you lay them sideways. Way more stable, first off.
Much more stable.
The puppy ones are almost like springs and they're so flimsy, it's you add any weight to it, you're done. Uh, I get it, and I was so frustrated with that last time I played Puppy Circus that I told my daughter, she's had a blast. I was like, I'm glad you like this. I need to show you Rhino Hero because we need to make such a better game. And I taught her how to play it. She enjoyed it. My son enjoyed it way more. He wanted to just stack the cards, see how high up of the tower he could make.
Isn't that what everybody wants to do?
Pretty much, yeah. And so like the only problem is one of my cards is bent. One of the floor cards has a crease in it, and I'm like, that hurts, but it's not a big deal. It still shuffles, it still works. It just adds a little bit more chaos variable. But one of the best dexterity games. It's easily my favorite stacking dexterity game.
Yeah, I'd have to say it's up there. I think, would you call Catch the Moon as a stacking game?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think I like that one just slightly more than Rhino Hero, or I actually prefer Super Rhino Hero Battle more
Sure.
than regular
Yeah,
Rhino
I
Hero.
get that. I can understand that. Yeah, it's just Rhino Hero is just so easy to grab
Oh yeah,
out
yeah.
of the throw up on the table. Yeah. Whereas Super Rhino Hero, I'm looking over here because it's right over there. It does take some more setup. Not too bad. Nothing that kids can't play, but I don't know.
You,
It's just
you,
table as much.
this is how much I like the game. I'm contemplating buying the one, the giant one from Board Game Geek,
And
just
that's
for
a
like when we can get together like at parties and stuff like that. I think it would just go down as a blast.
oh, absolutely. I would gladly play that anytime. You let me know. I'm in. Bunch of grown adults giggling like schoolgirls as a tower of cards falls. Or my playing card background, I know
Yeah,
how to build card towers. I've actually learned, and I've built like pretty
of
massive.
course you have. You collect them.
Of course, I have, but like I could teach you the actual methodology of it, and it's all the cards stacked together like that, and how you build these multiple levels, and like how the professionals do it. And so it's closer to Rhino Hero than it is the puppy stack one. Like for example, like you've seen like the pyramid of cards that people build. Those are incredibly difficult because cards are naturally slippery. You can't really build it like in cards angling towards each other.
Yeah.
But you can build massive floors of towers and multiple floors. That's easy. I can teach you how to do that, no problem, and you would have a blast doing it. It's so satisfying. Rhino Hero, I can't stress that enough. It's one of the best kids games that adults have fun playing too.
Oh yeah, it's one of the few HABA games that a lot of adults like to play. I think the other one is Animal Upon Animal is the only
Yep.
other one I can think about that adults have a really good time playing.
Yeah, that are part of their kids line, of course. Like there's still like
Yeah, yeah,
Toad and other family games. But yeah, I completely agree. So that was the first one I've been playing. Rhino Hero.
that's a good pick. I really I do enjoy that game a lot. It's one of the few stacking dexterities I really enjoy, just because I don't have steady hands and stuff like that, or the
Yeah.
dexterity really to get that itty bitty little piece and then move it up. I got these fat sausage fingers.
What makes it so fun is that it's almost strong enough where you can just drop the card on top and just everybody just gets scared.
Yeah, so
Like same with like
uh,
ladders and catch the moon. You can practically throw a ladder at like a pile of them and it might stick. This
yeah,
will
yeah.
be so yeah, I like that
Yeah,
one a
you
lot.
just have to follow the rules where it's got to be touching two letters. So if you throw it, you better not be touching that third ladder.
Yeah, well as long as it's a tall one, just I've done
All
that a
right.
number of times.
All right. Moving on to my number two here. And it is a very beautiful game that has a lot of dice. A lot of dice. I don't think we've talked about this recently. And that is Tidal Blades Heroes of the Reef.
Yeah, tidal blades, huh?
Yeah,
That's
it's a very beautiful game. I have to admit, it does have a lot of dice. It's very interesting when it comes to the worker placement with this, with the card competition and the set collection, and you want to make sure you're doing this at the right time because the judge is over there, and you're moving up the track. There is so much game in this, though, that it's really hard to grasp when you're first playing it. There's so
right.
much going on. There's so many levels. There's so many. Hey, there's this over here. Oh, wait, but we also got to worry about these monsters over here. So you're going to have to put some stuff over there, or you got to get your resources over here to pay for this over there. And it's just like, whoa, what is going on here? And so there is a bit of issues with that. And for me personally, I just feel because of everything that's going on, it's a bit bloated. They could have like taken a couple things out here and there and put them in as expansions. And this is just a base game. And I've what, two or three expansions are in it as well. And it's just, whew, that one. It's a bit. I like it. I'd play it again. I really have to play it again just to judge, see how I feel about it. But I honestly have to say it's not something I'm going to go out of my way to buy.
That's fair. Yeah, I remember when I last played it. And I made that random comment. Like we have a group text that we always chat with, and I had been avoiding looking into it, but I didn't realize it was Druid City. But I knew it was really pretty. I'm like, okay, it's just another big grandiose Kickstarter. And then when I saw that it was a Druid City and from I think Bill Eisner, I forget the designer's name on it,
Yeah.
but he co-designed like Grim Forest and Grim Masquerade. I remember it's like, man, those are really gorgeous games and they're incredibly simple and easy to play. they're like deceptively simple, right?
Yeah.
And so it was that point that I texted everybody and said, I want to try tidal blades because now that I know about it, plus I love that nautical theme. It's gorgeous. It looks phenomenal. It's one of my favorite themes, like just ever. I love the nautical style, and that art certainly didn't hurt.
Oh yeah, it was great art.
Yeah, and then I was almost disappointed when I played it because I was like, this is way more complicated than I was expecting.
So the designers are Tim and Ben Eisner.
Him and Ben Eisner. Yeah. Yeah. So the Eisner brothers, and they make good stuff. It's just, yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
I thought it could have been streamlined. That's all.
Yeah, no, like I said, there's just a lot going on that you have to concentrate on every little piece, like the monsters that are coming up, or else bad things are happening. Hey, oh, and then the little dials trying to get more dice, but you got increasing them properly and stuff like that. So
Right.
that's a bit of an issue as well.
Yeah. I'm noticing that if you ever hand me a board with like four more dials on it, I get a little concerned. No, no offense to previous games that you've made me play with dials on the board, but I'll have to just take that into
Hey,
account.
they're not on the board, but you have dials in Gloomhaven, and you seem to enjoy that. So
That's because they're not on the board. Clearly, that's the difference.
but
No,
your copy of Gloomhaven doesn't have the dials, huh?
no, I should have dials. I'm pretty sure.
Your Jaws of the Lions does. I don't know if your original one does. The big one.
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't opened it in more than a year. So I don't know. That's the sad part. If I'm I'm gonna play Jaws of the Lion. So for now,
Yeah.
and so my second game that I've been playing was one that I found out based on my BG Stats app that you and I both use. I have not played this in over 2 years, at least 2 years.
Wow.
And also on top of that, I played it with my brother-in-law, and that was the first game that I've played with him in more than 2 years as well,
Hmm.
because his name was not in my list. So I had to add him as a new user, which I started doing this more than 2 years ago and keeping stats. So both of those are off the list, and it's one that he has previously played. He's not a gamer. Like he plays video games, but he's not a board gamer at all.
Yeah.
So, and I showed this to both of my kids and both of my in-laws, and that is the Resistance. True story. I was a spy this time around again, but I think I did an all right job. But
What do you
there was
mean this time around? You're always the traitor. No matter what we're playing, you're always the traitor.
and see that's what everybody says, but and for some reason it's only when people point it out that I become the traitor. It's weird,
So you were the
but
traitor for that game. We played
yeah,
Deception Murder in Hong Kong. You were the murderer in that
yeah,
game. When we played the One Night Ultimate Werewolf, you were one of the werewolves.
yep, yeah, yep, most definitely. So anyway, we played the Resistance, and it was me, my father-in-law, and my daughter who were the three spies, and it was tricky because the third round with so the Resistance won the first 2 rounds. It's a social deduction game where you're trying to win the best of 5 rounds, and the Resistance can only choose for the rounds to succeed, whereas the spies choose for them to either succeed or fail. If at least one fail comes up, then the mission is failed and a point goes to the spies. So here's what happened. Round three, Resistance already has 2 points. I'm like, we need to fail at least one. Both me and my daughter and my wife were on the same team. 2 spies, 1 resistance. Okay, not a big deal. Me and my daughter both threw fails,
Oh God.
and which immediately that means my wife knew who was the spies. I had to completely try and cover my tracks. I'm like, I knew it was you, daughter. How dare you?
Yeah.
And betraying me. How dare you too? Completely. I had to play it off as best I could to convince everybody else because there was no convincing her, and she knew I was a spy anyway.
Oh
Because she
yeah.
and here's the best part. Round four requires 2 fails, and my wife pointed out, she was like, and my son was picking. She was like, look, if you pick everybody who wasn't part of that mission, at most there is going to be 1 spy on that mission. It is impossible for the spies to win. And as soon as she said that, I had to come up with some completely made up story. It's like, no, like if you pick this, then this could happen, and then they could throw a fail. And I just completely had to BS my way through to try and I was like, that's way too smart. You broke
Well,
it. You figured it out.
is it that typical marriage?
Right, exactly. Couldn't be the bus either way. But I had to, that was my challenge, was to try and convince everybody else how mathematically that somehow wasn't possible, even though that was totally exactly right. It was an interesting challenge. And yeah, it was intriguing to say the least. But yeah, we dug a hole, and but my daughter played it really well. I give her a lot of credit. She's only 9 years old, and her my wife and her brother, my brother-in-law, they have kind of a rivalry. They always just kind of
Hmm.
like naturally pick on each other and hate each other. So when it was my daughter's turn to pick the team, there's only two people on the mission. She picked the two siblings to go on the team, knowing that there was no spies. She was like, I just want to do this. And I was like, that's so smart. She's making that eternal conflict between them to cause rifts that don't actually exist in the game itself, because they're both resistance members. But if we can force like that bias against each other,
Yeah.
then we can fly under the radar. That was the best move in the whole game, easily. It was so smart. But yeah,
I'm glad you had a good time with it. Glad the family had a good time with it. I don't
yeah,
like Resistance. I'm sorry.
that's fine. Yeah, it was the first time that all of them had played. They were a little apprehensive at first, but no, they all played like a champ. And then after all the fingers started pointing and my kids started shouting, they got the idea real fast. So it was good fun. I liked it a lot.
Nice. So let's see here. I've already talked about Star Wars Rebellion, big game. Title
Mhm.
Blades, Hero of the Reef, big game.
Big
So my
game.
next game on my list here is,
Massive.
huh?
Massive, right? It's got to be huge.
It is. It's Anachrony.
You played Anachrony without me, sir?
Yes, I have.
I'm out. I'm out. You know that I've been wanting to try that.
Yeah, I got an opportunity to play it, so I went ahead and did. And oh
That'll
my
be
God, is it is it good? It's a big box though. Um, if you got the most recent Kickstarter that came with everything and the plastic pieces and the coins and all this and that, so there's that. It's a really cool worker placement game with such an interesting twist. You can loan from yourself in the future. Which has a nice little intrigue to it, because you could borrow from yourself, but you have to pay back that debt. And the only way you could pay back that debt is you build a time machine for you to go back in time and pay that debt by giving the resource that you borrowed from yourself in the future. But you got to make sure you go as far back as that debt is. So if I borrowed all the way in the first round and I'm in the fourth round, I got to make sure I can go back 3 spaces and finish that debt. And so it's really, really interesting. It was a fun game. I really like it. I like the fact that, because this game could take a long time, it has a timer built into it. You only play over through a certain amount of rounds. When one round ends, this big cataclysmic thing happens, and then you only have a couple more rounds after that. And you got to make sure you meet certain goals for you even to get your points that you need to win. The most recent Kickstarter Deluxe Edition that I was just talking about, that has everything in the box, is well done, but it's so massive and there's so much stuff. They have to give you an instruction manual to put everything into the game trays and into the box. That's how massive this is. But I highly recommend people to try it out. I want to try it one more time to see where this falls on like my top 10, top 50, something like that. But just that one play really put it up there, and I really want to play some more of it.
very cool. Yeah, that's been on my radar forever, and I really do want to try it. So one of these days, you guys will invite me to big grandiose games and allow me to stomp you as we play it. Because speaking of big grandiose games, the next game that I played was a game called Cinco Linko, which, if you're not aware of, it's just 60 little plastic pieces that are on basically a keychain. And it's an abstract strategy game that plays up to 4.
Of course it is. This is
Yeah,
you we're talking about, so.
yeah, it's an abstract strategy game. It actually comes like, so each of your pieces are little square tiles, right? And they have a hole in the middle, and you have like this little plastic post that you put all of them on, and all of them clip into the top part. And the top
Mm-hmm.
part has a little clip like for like mountain climbing or hiking or whatever. And so you can
Yeah.
just put it on your backpack and you have a board game with you. And at first I was like, okay, it doesn't do anything too new. Like I mean, obviously it's a gimmick, the fact that you're carrying it around like that.
Yeah.
But the idea is you're trying to get 4 or 5 in a row, cinco linko. Okay. Could be either a
Mm-hmm.
straight line or diagonal, no breaks between them. But it does a couple things differently. First off, there is no board, there is no grid that you play in. There's no limit to how big you can make it. As long as you have enough
Okay.
pieces, keep going. And once you run out of pieces to place, then you have to start removing pieces from the board and moving them to a different spot.
All right.
And the catch on that, what makes it interesting is that if you can never move one of your tiles, that would completely disconnect the other groups or another group from or two groups of tiles from each other. So
Okay.
the first person just puts a tile in the middle of the board, that's their turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't do anything else, but everything else has to be adjacent to a previously placed tile. So if you plan it well and you basically base it off of, if I have like 5 tiles branching off of your one tile, you
Okay.
can't move that one tile because it would disconnect it from the group. And so that makes it really interesting. And that with 4 players works pretty well. We played as a 3-player game with my kids, and my kids found out really fast. They're like, "Wow, if I don't place or if there's not a tile placed here, you're gonna win. So I'm gonna put it somewhere else and force you to place the non-winning move." So, for example, if I had 4 in a row and I was about to win, my daughter's next in line. She doesn't care. She puts it somewhere else, forcing my son to have to block me. It worked really well. It's surprisingly smart. I didn't think it was going to be anything different, and we really enjoyed it. So now I'm going to bring that with me as like anytime I feel like it, just throw it in the car or put it on a like hiking backpack. Totally, you could
Hmm.
play it. So it was a good fun time. Cinco Linko.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So, my last game before we get into our big debate about which is the better game,
Oh, I still have
Master
one.
Funkoverse. I know. I'm saying my last game before we do that.
Uh-huh.
I've talked about Star Wars Rebellion, Tidal Blades,
Okay.
and Anachrony.
Okay. So
So I got a theme going on, don't
what could
I?
it be?
I'm about to break my theme. Quicks.
Wow.
My
That's
number
smaller
4
than
game here
any
is
of the 3
Quicks.
I've talked about.
Huh?
That's smaller than all of the 3 I've talked about.
It's a nice, simple roll and write. I believe from Game Right Games.
I think so.
Such a phenomenal game. All you're doing is trying to score the most points before 2 of the dice get locked. So like the green one and the blue one. Once those are gone, then we go into final scoring. And you got 2 rows of ascending, 2 through 12, and 2 rows of descending, 12 through 2. And you're trying to put them in order. So I forget the colors combinations, but if I need a 12 of something, I got to try to make sure I put the 12 first, and then the 11, and then the third or the 10 if I'm going in the descending order, or in reverse if I'm doing. I got to make sure I do the 2, 3, 4 stuff like that. Those are kind of hard to roll, but more blocks you score, more chance you're getting to score points. More blocks you get in there before those get locked. So you got to be smart of how you're playing these dice. And what's interesting about it, there's not really a lot of downtime. So if I'm the active player, I'm rolling all the dice, including the 2 white dice, basically. And so I have to take either the one of the colors and one of the white die together, or the 2 white dice. That's the active players. They have to take one of those combinations. But the non-active players, they can choose to take one of the color combinations with a white die. So if I roll a 4 red and a 1 white, that's a 5. Hey, Daniel over there, that's what he needs. So that's what he's going to take. He's like, hey, I'm going to take that 5 red because that's going to put me in a nice little line here on that red. Phenomenal game. Quick, really cheap too. I don't think it's not that hard. And then if you get the are like printable sheets on by yourself, and if you have like a game of Tinsy or just random dice laying around the house, like somebody else I know, you could just do it over the internet, and it's a really good socially distanced game because all you need is the sheets and the dice. It's a phenomenal game. I really enjoy it. Something I play not often, but a little bit more lately now that I got stuff to do it.
Interesting. Very cool. Yeah, that's one of the few that I do own, but I haven't played it in years. I think I played it once or twice when I first got it. That's it. That, really.
So yeah, it's interesting. Star Wars Rebellion, Anachrony, Tidal Blades, Quicks.
Well, I mean, I'm not sticking out of order. My other game is small as well, and it is also a roll and write, but it's a drafting roll and write. In fact, it's not even rolling and write; it's drafting and writing.
Is this the one you just recently got? You sent the picture?
No, it's not that. It's one that I played online on Board Game Arena. It's called
okay.
Boomerang.
It's
I've
called
been
what?
hearing a lot of like the Boomerang.
Oh, Boomer. Okay.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of like the Dice Tower guys, and a lot of these other reviewers talking about it, and I'm like, and they're saying they're like, this is like the best drafting game ever, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll see about that because I'm the deciding factor. No, we'll see. But I was curious about it, and I saw it on Board Game Arena, and I played it with a mutual friend of ours, and so the idea of this, there's 28 cards and a pad of paper. That's all the game is. So
Okay.
you get a sheet of paper. That's effectively your scoring. It's a picture. The version we played was Australia, so it's a picture of Australia, and there's a few different categories of scoring. You play over 4 rounds. Each round you'll have 7 cards that you'll draft one by one.
Okay.
If you're familiar with any drafting game like Sushi Go, Seven Wonders, effectively you just take one card out of your hand, pass the entire hand to your left, do that again, take one card, take one card, take one card. But this does so many really neat things on it. There's 5 different ways to score points using these cards.
Okay.
First way, they are numbered anywhere from 1 to 7. Okay. Those 1 to 7, the first one you put down is called your throw card. You put it face down, nobody can see it. Every other card goes face up. Your last card is called your catch card. At the end of that round, everybody scores points equal to the difference of your throw and your catch card. So if I put down a 4 as my throw card and I have a 1 on my catch card, I have 3 points guaranteed.
Okay.
So that's already kind of interesting. That's a little bit different. Secondly, you have like these souvenirs, as they're called. They're worth anywhere from 1, 2, 3, or 5 points. And at the end of the round, you just add up all your green souvenirs. If you have 1 to 7 points, your score is doubled. If you have 8 or more, it's just as it's listed. So, for example, if I have 6 points, I have 12 points for that round worth of souvenirs. But if you score 9 points worth of souvenirs, you have 9 points. Bad. So that's already kind of funky, but fun. And then the next one is animals, which animals you see. And they're worth anywhere from, I think, 5 to 10 points, something like that. But you have to score them in pairs. So like a koala, for example, I think is worth 7 points. If you have 2 koalas, you have 7 points. Simple.
Yeah.
Then the next one is activities. You're either hiking, swimming, photography, and something else. At the end of the round, you choose one of those 4 to score, and you only score it during that round. So you add up the number that you have there. If I have, like, let's say 5 photography symbols, I score 5 points, but then I can't choose photography again for the rest of the game.
Okay.
And then the last way you score is that each of the regions are worth 3 points. There's 7 regions that Australia is broken up into, and they each have 4 cards. Every card you draft, there's only 28 cards in the game, is one of those locations. So it'll say what region it is, and it'll have a letter like A, B, C, or D. And so you can easily see on your map which one you have. At the end of the round, you just mark all 7 of the cards you have, their regions. And if you fill in all 4 of the locations in that region, you get 3 points if you're the first to do it. Otherwise, If somebody else has already scored the 4 points, doesn't matter if you fill in the region. So you have like a whole timing thing going there. That's the 5 different ways to score. Each card just has 2 symbols, a number, and a region. That's it. It's very simple,
Yeah.
surprisingly simple, but oh my goodness, I have legitimately good choices because like in stuff like Sushi Go, you pick a card and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, I already have a tempura. All right, I'll take a tempura. That's easy, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I don't have any pairs or sets. Well, I'll just go nigiri. That's fine. I'll score just plain vanilla points for that. You know, it's very straightforward. I like the simplicity, but that doesn't add much more complication to it, and it's phenomenal. I have to go buy this now. I can't wait to play it again. It was one of the best drafting games I've played,
That
easily.
sounds pretty. It does sound quite interesting.
Yeah, I
So
I'll have to show you it because Daniel, I really think you would have a blast playing it. It was really fun.
cool.
And
Sounds pretty good. Yeah. No, I'm willing to try it out.
cool. All right. So
Alrighty. So, ready to move on to our fist fight here, our virtual fist fight.
I think so. There's going to be a lot of different topics that we'll be bringing up to this. Now, viewers, bear in mind this is a brand new thing for us. This is a new segment that we're trying out where we've never had games that are like so much head to head that we decided to just let's just compare the two.
Yeah,
Let's
and talk about it.
compare.
One, it informs you about which is the better choice for you, and two, it's what we do. We argue. Our other one, like I said, is the top 8 debate. So we're arguing games all the time. Why not compare two that we both have strong feelings for?
Exactly. Yeah. So we're hoping that if you've been considering either of these, this will help point you in the right direction. With that being said, obviously Funkoverse is the better game. So
No, it's not. Like I said, you're always wrong.
who would like to go first and start making their points? Let's talk about the
Hold on, we got to talk about the fans.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because we actually remembered to post this online this week. And we did get some replies. And I think it's very important that we talk about these replies. So
So
with
the
that being
question is that we posted on the Board Game Revolution Facebook page is compare and contrast Funkoverse and Unmatched. What parts do you like better between the two?
mhm. So Mike started us off with our conversation. He says, I rank Funko as the worst game I played in 2020. Unmatched is okay. Unmatched seems to require more thought, positioning, and planning. I'd take an actual war game over either any day, though if I want fighting.
Sounds
It's
like he sounds like he's a hardcore war gaming compared to these because these are just little skirmisher games and he's comparing them to war games.
right. Yeah, I mean if he wants people fighting, he wants murder and death, apparently. Knocking out and really like boxing. Like and I get it. Like if you look above me right here, I have Ogre, which is from the 70s. It is a war game. I get it. It has a combat results table. I get why people play those and enjoy the little cardboard chit games. It makes perfect sense. But this is not what that is. I don't
No.
like if I get why he doesn't like either of the two necessarily compared to that, but that's I mean if you're already a war gamer, I don't think either of these are going to be an option for you.
Okay, just a quick note. It's showing that we have 4 comments, but I only have 3 showing on my system.
It's because one person replied to Sean.
Ah, that's what I'm missing. Okay, there I see it. So Sean says Funko is designed to be supposed to be light, simpler brawler. It's a brawler for a wide audience. Unmatched is a hobbyist game. Planning, pivoting, positioning, all important. I actually appreciate that they made a tactical fighter which you can play in 30 to 45 minutes.
Yep, yep,
And everything he said there basically sums up what we're going to talk about, but we're going to make sure we get it done.
yeah, we're definitely going to talk about it, but very eloquently put by Sean. No, he's
Mhm.
absolutely right. I mean, Funko is designed as a family weight game. It's by Prospero Hall, which you and me already know. Their most
Yeah.
complex game is Pan Am, which isn't saying anything, right?
Yeah, it's complex, but it's not that bad compared to like if I'm comparing route building Pan Am, I think it's just a step above Ticket to Ride. That's how difficult it is.
Right. And then if you listen to our top 8 debate this week, we're talking about the top 8 Stefan Feld games. Every Feld game is more complicated than the most complex.
Prospero
With
Hall.
a couple exceptions, but like
Yeah.
really, it's not much of a comparison. So, but I do agree with them, and I feel like if you're going for a tactical hit, I think either of them would work. But I get why more people would go for Unmatched if that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, and then Mark was just saying he agrees that it's easy to pick up and play, which means it's generally a bit easier to fit in.
Okay. And then Mark's also replied down below. He said, "I love Unmatched. It's probably my second favorite arena type game after Fantasy Brawl or Super Fantasy Brawl. Actually, just picked up a couple Funko sets in a sale, so looking forward to trying that out." And that's where I'm going to talk about that in a bit, because that is a point that I want to bring up, is the fact that because of Funko standing in the market, entry level is a lot easier
Much
than.
easier. No, that's actually one of the points I put up for like a pro for Funkoverse. It's
Yep.
really easy to get in because they make so much of it that it's easy to buy them on a sale.
Yep, absolutely. It's one of the most common to buy on a sale, in my opinion. So that's worth talking about for sure. So Daniel, let's start
What's
with
it?
the pros on some of these. What do you think is the biggest pro for Unmatched?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I think the biggest pro from the match is it's coming out of just as we talked about Prospero Hall, it's coming out of Restoration Game. So you know it's going to get support and it's going to get the love and it plays very well because of that. So I guess my best pro for this is that it is a simple skirmisher game in a sense that it's easy to pick up and learn how to play. It's not simple to master by any means. Where it's basically the last man standing. So who plays the best as you go along? I think that's probably one of the main pros for Funkoverse too, is that it's a simplified skirmisher style game that families can get into.
Sure. Yeah, I can agree with that. I would say between the two, if you're looking for simplicity and easy to learn, though, Funkoverse does beat it out. Not saying that it's complicated to play on Match, because it's
Oh,
really.
yeah. No. I agree with you on that. I do have to say, though, if you're looking for a more tactical style of game with less luck interference, basically, because Funkoverse does have that dice roll, I would say Unmatched is the better choice.
Sure. Okay. One of the things, and this is, I know you disagree with me, but and we've disagreed on this before, but I feel that Funkoverse is the more thematic game because.
No, it is not.
And well, hold on, hear me out. This is why I think that is because the whole premise of Funkoverse is that that these guys have basically been thrown into the same universe in styles of battle. And what they really focused on is, instead of changing how the gameplay works, they focus on like one or two abilities for each of the characters, what make them really unique. So, like, for example, there are walls in the game. This guy, Kool-Aid Man, he gets to break the walls. Well, that makes sense because that's what he's known for, screaming, "Oh yeah," smashing through a wall, right? Like another example, Jon Snow from Game of Thrones universe, he has the dog. I'm forgetting his name. Is it Snow?
Ghost.
Ghost. Yeah, he has Ghost as a companion that he can include in the game, and he's always by his side. And and Unmatched does a lot of the same things too. I just feel like, for considering how unserious it is, this reminds me more of like Smash Brothers Brawl, and like the video game where it's like these characters would never fight, but
I'll
they
give you
have
that it has that feel of Smash Brothers Brawl, but
it.
it's not thematic at all.
No, it's as thematic as like Smash Bros is to like the Nintendo universe, whereas like, let's say something like an actual fantasy like Soul Calibur, it is like, it's a very enriched theme. I consider, like, if we want to make the video game comparison, if Smash Brothers is like Funkoverse, like Soul Calibur, or other traditional fighting games, maybe like Mortal Kombat is to like Unmatched. Do
I
you agree?
would say Unmatched is more like Marvel versus Capcom
Okay,
because
sure.
you're blending of worlds together.
Yeah, Okay, I agree with that. And like so there's no disagree that like Marvel vs. Capcom is definitely a more strategic. You have to be way more skillful in how you move, but sometimes you just want to like throw stuff together and just like beat the mess out of each other like in Brawl and like have silly
Yeah, but
items.
see, that's where we're
Like
having the problem with the thematic disconnect. You're making it out to be like Super Smash Brothers. Well, I want to play a certain character. So if I want to play Bruce Lee, I want to go around the board and beating everybody up and punching people in the face. He does that. My
sure.
problem with Funkoverse, where you're saying thematic, is that you can have Blanche from the Golden Girls using the Batarang or Harley Quinn's mallet. That's game breaking right there. That's not thematic. Blanche doesn't have that. She probably has like a rolling pin. That makes sense. Whereas when you're playing on match, you're that character. Your card feels like that character. When you're playing as Sherlock, you're scheming and doing damage, or you're counterpunching because you see kind of cognitive how they're going to move their punches and such. Or Dr. Watson, he's your range player because he uses weapons. And so there's that. You feel like you're playing as Sherlock. You feel as you're playing as. So I have that theme. I'm the Kool-Aid man who can use Joker's little punch thing, whatever Joker has. I can't remember what it is. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, I get that. So let's say Funko versus the button mashing of strategy tactical skirmish games, because it is like you could there's not really bad moves in it. It's fairly arbitrary choices, you're just running in, like let's find a way to punch each other. I guess what I meant by that is that it's more it it's okay, it's less thematic as far as the characters. I will give you that. Like I do see your point, but it's this whole universe of just like the absurdity of it. It really leads to just really fun table talk because of just how silly that.
Well, so
Just
does Unmatched.
well, I mean, you can't give like a chainsaw to Sherlock in Unmatched. I'm saying like it's like if I want a Golden Girls to fight with a chainsaw, I can do that, and that's ridiculous, and I'm gonna have a laughing time playing it because of just the absurdity of what that is. Like I could let Ghost follow. Let's just pick someone random. The Jaws shark, like because why not? Like it's silly, and it's a fun universe to be part of and to see like this
Well,
ridiculous.
yeah, it's intriguing and it's silly and it's fun. That's why it's family weight game. But you're saying if it's matching the theme, it does
Yeah, it matches this completely non-existent made up theme of the Funko verse. Like, I mean, there's a reason they called Smash Brothers and not Super Mario Brothers the fighting game, Like Funkoverse is like, oh, all of
Yeah,
these
but
other
we're
characters.
comparing themes working. You're putting a theme on it that they haven't even talked about. You're saying, hey, it just reminds me of this. Whereas I'm talking about on match. When I'm playing Sherlock, I feel like I'm playing Sherlock. When I'm playing Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, I feel like I'm playing those characters.
But here's my counter argument to that is like Alice in Wonderland, while she's an awesome character, I don't feel like she would ever tactically fight something.
Have
You
you
know what I
read the
mean?
book?
No, I haven't. I don't read. You forget that.
You're going off the Disney story.
Yes, I'm going
Throw
off the.
everything you know about the Disney characters that are in these in Unmatched and throw it out the window.
So so what you're saying is that every character that they include with um with Unmatched, they would all naturally fight each other?
Well, not all naturally fight each other, but Alice does. I mean, if you watch the most recent Disney movies that aren't all that great, Alice in Wonderland, that's more true to the book because she is fighting like the Red Queen and stuff like that, and they go into these wars and stuff like that with the C.S. Lewis books. From what I remember, it's been a long time, but you feel thematic to where they're pulling it actually from because they can't pull Alice in Wonderland from Disney. They have to pull it from eminent dom or the not eminent domain, public
The
domain.
what I'm saying though is that like she doesn't seem like the character that would fight. Like like Bigfoot, I guess if you poked him the wrong way, yeah, he would probably get mad and do that. But he's like a recluse; he hides. And
Well, Alice is basically a general.
yeah,
Again, get your Disney head out of this.
okay, all right. But you see what I hope you see what I'm saying. It's just like they're almost so thematic that it feels wrong to put them in a field to fight other things. Where this, it's so far disconnected that it works. It's
Actually,
fine.
every single one of the characters that we have in here in the Unmatched would fight any of the other characters. Bruce Lee would go around and kick everybody's butt. Bigfoot would fight if he has to defend his forest. Robin Hood, of course, he fights like rich people anyway. So you could see Robin Hood going after King Arthur, even though King Arthur is actually a relatively decent king out of Arthurian lore, but still, these are concepts. Now, case in point, when you go into the IPs that Unmatched has, you have the Raptors facing Injun. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And that actually brings up an interesting thing. So we've talked about the theme, the story a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about their IPs. Let's bring up some of these and let's talk about those, because first off, let's talk about Jurassic Park, because they both use Jurassic Park.
Yes, Jurassic Park has a 4-box set, correct? Where you have Sattler, I think it's the T-Rex, and like 2 other like humans.
Yeah. I forget the names of the characters. It's been a while, but it's
it's Jeff Goldblum's character, Laura Dern's character, Elliot Sadler, who is played by can't think of his name right now, but everybody knows who it is. And I think it's the T-Rex, correct? Or is it a raptor?
I think it's a raptor, because I think Jeff Goldblum is in the 2-pack. So there's 6 characters altogether. So he's in the 2-pack with, I think, a raptor, and then the T-Rex is in the other, who is in the 4-pack with the
Sadler and
yeah. And so, like, what the abilities in there, they're lacking. I will say, Jeff Goldblum's character, he has another die that's a chaos die, where
of course he does.
Yeah, it does. It makes sense, right? It's a 50-50 roll, but half of the sides are blank, half of them are crits. Because that's awesome. He is the chaos variable. And that's silly. Like that makes a lot of sense. And like the shark, it's pretty powerful stuff. Same with the raptor, it's super fast, you know. It makes sense. Now I have not played Jurassic Park for Unmatched, but have you played that one yet or no?
I have played, or I have seen the Raptors play. My wife played the Raptors. I haven't actually seen how Muldoon works yet. So there's going to be 2-packs for Jurassic Park. We need to mention here right now. The only one out is Muldoon, who plays Injun in the Raptors from Jurassic Park. The Raptors basically hunt in a pack. You're trying to move them and shuffle people this way. They take damage if they're adjacent to the pack of raptors. So like if this raptor attacks and that character's adjacent to another raptor, it basically doubles the damage. Or if they're swarmed in by all 3 raptors, they take a lot of damage. So it's quite interesting. And each of the raptors are their own little mini. So it's not like the little sidekick pucks that you get. They're all minis. So it's intriguing how they play. They're really good. The next one coming out for Jurassic Park is Elliot Sadler, the one we're just talking about, and the T-Rex. That's going to be the other 2-pack that Jurassic Park.
Interesting. Very cool. And I haven't tried any of those, but I imagine they're pretty powerful. I mean, I can't imagine it.
Yeah, they're all powerful. That's what makes it, is they're all overpowered. So it keeps even. I think, though, for me personally, I think Bruce Lee, and I mentioned this before, is a little bit too unpowerful. He doesn't feel like super balanced compared to the rest, because his whole thing is, hey, I'm going to come up and I'm going to punch you, and then because I have this in my discard pile, I get to hit another damage. Oh, by the way, I get to move away, and on my next turn, hey, I get 3 actions instead of 2 because I played this card that gives me an extra action. If I play 2 of those cards, I get 4 actions.
Right.
So it makes sense for Bruce Lee because he is a very powerful character, but that's why he comes in his own little pack. And then you got Bigfoot, you got Robin Hood. So going to what we're talking about, the characters, Unmatched, I think Funkoverse has more IP characters. Unmatched has quite a few public domain characters, but they also have some IPs. So on my list here, so you have like public domain, you have Dracula, Invisible Man, Jekyll and Hyde, Bigfoot, Sherlock, what's her name? Medusa, King Arthur, and stuff like that. Whereas they do have some licenses. They have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a box set for that. They have Marvel coming out this year. They have 4 Marvel packs of 3 characters each coming out this year. So they have 12 Marvel characters coming out. Jurassic Park, as we mentioned. So yeah, they have their IPs, but I like the mix of public domain because I like a lot of those classic characters coming in to fight some of the big grandiose, like having Dracula go against Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, so not to like, I'm not trying to rewind, but I want to kind of point people in the right direction. Do you agree with my analogy of the Marvel versus Capcom? If you like fighting games, like the 2D fighting games, if you like
Mhm.
Smash Bros, you'd probably like Funko. If you like Marvel versus Capcom, you
Yeah,
probably.
I don't disagree with that at all.
So then I think a good comparison between these two, then, as we're talking about IPs, Funkoverse, it's all IP. There is no public domain stuff in it. It's all IP, and that's because Funko is the owner of the Pops. They have access to all of these IPs that they've already made figures for, and a lot of
Yeah.
companies are willing to lend them their IPs to add into the game using those figures, and that's a cool advantage if you like that. Like just the other day, you sent me a text showing me the announcement for the Darkwing Duck IP
Hmm.
for the new single character for that. There's also like what, a Gretsuko? I think it's like an anime of like this
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cute.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen that one. It's that little kitty anime that
Right.
it's out there. Yeah, yeah.
Whereas like Unmatched, yeah, they do have their IPs and they do have like their real characters. I find it odd that that I get Bruce Lee, like he's an amazing person, but that's a real person. Like not a
Yeah.
character, a real person versus, all of these fictionalized things like that. I thought that was interesting, but at the same time, that because they don't have as many IPs, I feel that like I really actually appreciate Arthurian legend and Sherlock Holmes and all these public domain figures. I think that's awesome. But so I think it's fair that if you like the old classics, if you like public domain stuff and like legend and story and
Hmm.
mythos, then I think Unmatched is a fair bet for you. But if you really like these characters like that are part of all these like weird random IPs, like fictional,
Okay, so yes, I agree with what you're going to
yeah,
say here. And yes,
yeah,
that's true. But there's one big problem with that.
sure,
And we've talked about it at the top of this podcast, and I've talked about it before. There are a lot of people who like Funko, and there are a lot of people who don't. And that's going to be a big detractor for them, is because you're not getting to play the character. You're getting to play the Funko Pop version of that character. So you got these
sure.
bug-eyed, soulless looking creatures playing out your fantasy of Jon Snow kicking the butt of the Kool-Aid Man.
Winter is coming. Winter.
As I say Jon Snow, you pick him up. So that was good
I,
timing.
I had him in my hand as soon as you said it. That was brilliant. You could not have done that better. Let's try another. Name another character. Okay, I got one.
Harry Potter.
Close. One of the
Oh,
Golden.
is that Blanche?
I think so. I don't know.
I don't know the Golden Girls all that well, but that's what I'm saying, is just that at least these ones, the minis, that you can kind of see the minis as the character they're playing because they look normal.
Sure.
Those, a lot of people have a problem with that, and
Yeah.
that's what I say. I like Funkoverse. I've talked about it before. It's a fun game. I prefer Unmatched, but I like Funkoverse. But the
I
hard thing for me is those pops. I don't like pops. Funko Pops are the most annoying thing I've ever seen, and I think they're a waste of plastic.
let's talk about the pops a little bit more in depth when we get to components. But yeah. But do you agree though, as far as like IP?
Yeah, I agree what you're saying about the characters. That, like, if you like all these IPs, this is better. Now, not saying that
Yeah.
uh,
If you like Jurassic Park,
Unmatched isn't getting there. I mean, they're getting the Marvel characters later this year, and honestly, I'm just waiting for them to get the Star Wars characters,
if if they
and that
do
would be
that,
full
that's
circle
not.
because this is a reimplementation of Star Wars Epic Duels.
Yeah, no, that would be really intriguing if they do that. So I mean, they made a really smart move with waiting, and now they announced Marvel Unmatched because this didn't have Marvel. The closest you have to Marvel is DC, and let's be honest, DC is not Marvel.
No, not in the scale as of right now because of the movies. DC was at one point the bigger comic, and it's got like some of the biggest names in comics. You got Batman and his rogues gallery, you got Superman and his rogues gallery. Wonder Woman's pretty famous. Aquaman's getting famous because of the guy who played Khal Drogo. I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now.
Why do you want to kill me? Why do you want to kill
That's the Adam West Batman at that.
me? I know. I love the idea.
Well, what's funny is if you could slightly see over my shoulder, right over there, I have a Batman salt and pepper shaker on my stand.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, so I agree with you. The IPs and Marvel's like their biggest one that they got, but I think they're going to have more. I mean, they got Jurassic Park as well. But to me, I like Marvel. I've always liked Marvel more than DC. Batman's still my favorite superhero just because I like his rogues gallery and his story. And a lot of it is due to the Batman animated series when I was growing up. But Marvel, just those comics had some of the most phenomenal stories because they weren't these pumped up superheroes. They were people who had flaws and there's meaning behind their stories. So that's why I tend to be closer to Marvel. And that's why I'm more excited the fact that Marvel's in Unmatched.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that.
And I don't have to stare at the dead soulless eyes of Marvel characters.
Right. Wait, I mean, some of the characters in Marvel do have dead soulless eyes, but just not comically so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you branched to it.
Funko took chibi to a whole nother level, and it's disturbing.
It really did. Like, so much to the point where they have to tone back anime characters. So let's talk about components then. That's our next step. I mean, a lot of them, the first obvious difference between them is Funkoverse uses the Funko Pops, which
and you actually have minis and Unmatched that actually come pre-washed. So if you want to paint them,
but yeah, and you bring up a point. Like the minis on here, the Funko Pops, they are full color. You know, I didn't.
Yeah, they're full color.
Yeah. Now,
but a lot of people like to paint their minis more than they like to get pre-colored ones because they want to put their own flair on it. So I mean, just what you want to do. I don't paint mine because I'm not good at it. I don't have the steady hand for that kind of thing. Would I like some painted ones? Heck yeah.
Right, exactly. And let's be honest, like about the Funko Pops, you already, if you know whether you do or don't like Funko Pops, you know whether you're going to like this or not.
Yeah, the game, but I do have to say, at least give the game a try. I'm not saying go out and buy it. Like if a game store, whenever everything opens up and you can go demo it, give it a try, give it a look at, have fun with it. It's a phenomenal game. I just don't like the way the Funko Pops in it. Now, if I could play that same game and find myself like a little Batman character and a little Robin character and like replace all the Funko Pops, I'd play that hands down a lot more. I still think I'd play Unmatched more just because it's a more thinky game. But it's just that takes me out of it is the Funko Pops.
Sure, that makes sense. Let's talk about the sidekick characters. How are they made in Unmatched?
You get little small, I guess you could say really nice though, screen printed discs. Probably about the size of a nickel, maybe a little smaller than that, between a nickel and a dime.
Yeah.
Really nice artwork in that too. So we have to mention that is that they even have the screen printing on it, really nice. And
they're plastic.
And they're plastic, yeah. Like I was saying, they're like thick plastic. They feel almost poker chip like, if not for the fact that they're so small.
Right. And then in Funkoverse, you have little cardboard. Now they're still colored, but they are cardboard.
Yeah, they're cardboard.
That's all they are. They just printed cardboard token. That's what they are. They do.
But let's not forget the fact that with at least with Funkoverse, you do when you have like the weapons, like the batarang I'm talking about, they're actual physical pieces. Whereas this one, there's the only physical piece are the character in the little poker chip that I was talking about, the sidekick. Right.
Yeah, and then you play the cards to match characters. Where most of these sets will come with their own piece. So you can see here the hoverboard.
Yeah,
that extends movement. So that goes into the.
Sorry, I didn't bring any show and tell for our group because I care about our audio listeners since you're the bigger group of us.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, audio listeners. I'm just showing them real quick, but we're making the points. But let's talk about the card quality.
I don't know how we're going to talk about this because I really like the card quality in Restoration Games version of it.
You know what my counter argument is? You're right. The card stock that's in Funkoverse, it's not needed. It just mats. That's all they are.
But basically, the way I compare it to, for people who are in this hobby, that's why you're listening to this podcast, is this. Unmatched has cardstock that you would find in any restoration game, any board game out there that's just specifically for the hobby. Funkoverse, the cardstock for that game, is the mass produced that you get like in the Monopoly and the Clues and stuff like that. Mind you,
Well,
it's
not
slightly better than those, but it's not as the top quality that you come to expect if you're a hobby gamer.
mass produced. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the boards. The boards on Funkoverse, there are quite a bit more because there's a lot of different IPs and they are double
Yeah.
sided as well. I believe they're double sided and unmatched, right?
Yes, there is one board that isn't double sided, and I'll talk about it. Well, it is double sided, but it's the same board, and I'll talk about it in a little bit.
Right. They both mine Funkoverse uses grids. You're moving around spaces, and anything you can't go between is outlined normally in blue or red, depending on the atmosphere. They're pretty good art. Good sized boards. In the
Mhm.
full boxes, they're a bit bigger. In the half size boxes, they do include boards. The only time you don't get a board is during the single characters, which I think is also true for
Yeah, you
Unmatched.
didn't get a board with the Bruce Lee, but all the 2-player characters, I believe the 3-player packs that are coming out, and the 4-player packs all came with double sided boards.
But the board on Unmatched has one very distinct advantage
Which
over
I think is phenomenal. It
well,
has, well, there's two advantages. It has one, the best thing ever, the best line of sight that I've seen in board gaming in a long, long time. And that goes with number two is that there's different areas. So the way they print it is like this is a red zone, yellow zone, blue zone. But if you're standing here, this is a split. So this is a yellow zone and a red zone, which means you can hit anybody in the red zone. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as if you have a range attack, anybody that's standing in the red zone, you can hit. Same could be said for the yellow zone, but you can't hit anybody in the blue zone because you're not standing on a space that has that blue zone. It's a phenomenal line of sight. And it tells you the patterns where you could go. So I can go to this space, this space, this space. They're all connected by the lines. When you go into the, what is it, the Jurassic Park board, there's certain areas that it's only one way, and it actually shows you on the board that if you go in here, this is your only exit. You can't go out the same way you came in or go into these other areas. You actually have to go out through this door because it's the raptor paddock, so there's only one way into it.
yeah.
And so I think just on the graphic design alone by using that board is amazing. Now, going to that other board I was going to talk about, the most recent one is Little Red Beowulf expansion. And that is a double-sided board, but it's the same board on the same side. Instead of having the circles have the tricolors on it, they made the rings have the tricolor. This way you can see more artwork on the board. Me personally, I'm not a fan of that because I'm colorblind. I need to see more color than just a little small sliver. But I understand why they did it, and they just wanted to see how people would react to it. I still think it's a phenomenal board and with a great graphic design.
I was about to say, like, I like the boards and the functionality of it is definitely better, but it does cover up pretty much all of the art. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's less about looking at a board with art. It's more about looking at, oh, well, I'm in green section. I can attack that. And to Restoration's credit, they did do a really good job of color. Like, not only is the spaces color coded, they do have designs on them too.
There's a design on it as well. Yeah.
They don't just rely on that. So for colorblind people,
Like
great.
us that we've talked about a lot. And when we start recording the top 8 debate, we're going to talk about it a lot more too.
Right. Yep. Yep. And that's, well, yeah, no kidding. Um, so I'm trying to think. So the card quality we agree is better in Unmatched. The boards, they both have their advantages, but I'd
Mm-hmm.
say they're probably better in Unmatched as well.
I
The
think
front,
because of the line of sight capabilities and being more friendly, letting you know, hey, this is the area you can hit, or this is the area you can hit. I think that's something needed, especially when you're like, oh, there's a wall in the way. Can I see that? You don't have to worry about walls. There's another thing they added in the Beowulf one that I didn't mention is doors.
yeah.
So you could put doors down in like certain areas, and basically you're closing the door. So they have to open the door to move through the door. I think that's an interesting twist on it. It's something new, but yeah, just so I'll have to show you the other side of that board to see how you like the fact that you see more of the artwork and it just has those little circular things. Me personally, I don't like it as much. It's like, yeah, you get to see more of the nice, beautiful artwork on it. but it loses that tactical feel for someone like me that I'm like, okay, this is it, because it's literally you go from like something like that big to something like that big can be difficult for some.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about any extra components that they have. In Funkoverse, you have these dice. Every pack you get, they're just gray dice, and they all have the
Mhm.
same. There are 3 attacks, 2 shields, and 1 crit side. That's true for everything. If you buy multiple packs, you don't have the option of not getting those. Now, granted, I don't think I think Funkoverse is mostly still less expensive than,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
if not comparable. But these I have like,
Now Funkoverse is a lot more easier to buy. Price point wise, Funkoverse is the better option.
yeah. But just to show some of the other tokens, like generic,
Mhm.
like the action tokens are just colored and shaped like that. But there's white cardboard, nothing too spectacular there. There's stands. But the one piece I do want to show off in Funkoverse I think is really neat is you get victory points, and they theme these points. They're like little plastic shard things, and they theme them based on the set that they are. So obviously,
Mhm.
if it makes sense to have a blue gems, they do. But the Jurassic Park one actually looks like
Amber.
the the amber from the thing, and some of them even have like little mosquitoes printed on. And so that's like a cool little extra little flavor that they added into it.
No,
That
that's pretty cool.
yeah, not saying that obviously Unmatched doesn't need to do that because they don't do that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and then any
So,
other
like the extra stuff that you get in Unmatched really is cardboard pieces, but it's more so for the characters rather than anything other than the board, other than the one I mentioned about Beowulf and Little Red Riding Hood, where you're putting on the board. But you get like fog tokens for the Invisible Man that allows him to bounce around the board. You get there's a couple other that I haven't looked at, but there's like little tokens that you can use. I think Spike does something somewhat similar in the Buffy thing where he has like fog that helps him or does something.
little flag tokens.
But I also like the little cardboard that you get when you have like big little characters. So with Alice, she goes big or small, and depending on what card she's going to play. But my personal favorite is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where you're turning it back and forth between your two sides, where your character is Dr. Jekyll. Now he's Mr. Hyde. He's Dr. Jekyll again. And when you're Dr. Jekyll, it's fine. But if you're Mr. Hyde, you'll get hurt by doing certain things with Mr. Hyde, which mainly is moving. I think when you're trying to move, you take a damage for it. What I like about it, though, is Dr. Jekyll's more about defense. So you want to be Dr. Jekyll when you're on the defense, but you want to be Mr. Hyde when you're doing damage because he's got cards that are split. Whereas, hey, if I'm Dr. Jekyll, I get the shield 6, but if I'm Mr. Hyde, I get to do 6 damage.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah,
But
that's
other than
cool.
that, the extra pieces. But there's one production thing I do want to talk about.
Okay.
And it's one of my big gripes about Funko. It's the box. That bubble window is so annoying that it's just, you can't do anything with it. You don't even keep them in the box anymore. You have like a chest for everything, correct?
So yeah, and that's not because of the actual. That's not because of the game itself or the specifically the bubble window. I
No, that's
have
because of the Funko Pops.
It's because I have so many. Like honestly, I have about 30 characters. I have most of them. Um, but
I'm pretty close, I think. I can't really do the math, but I have everything for Unmatched. I can fit everything on Unmatched. Their boards, their tokens, their cards in 2 big boxes.
okay.
Not for much longer, but I could fit everything in 2 big boxes.
Oh yeah,
Whereas Funkoverse, you have to have a chest because one, the Funko Pops take up a lot of room.
sure. Yeah. They take up the bulk of mine. Yeah, and see that doesn't bother me too much, like because I knew that going into it. Like I'd rather have the big clunker bit, but we'll talk more about functionality here in a minute. But there is one big disadvantage to the Funko Pops on that, which I'll talk about. Let's talk about art on the cards. Funkoverse just has images of the Funko Pops.
Again, to our audio listeners, I am sorry.
No, I'm showing it, but I'm saying it. It's just a picture, like an action pose of the Funko Pops. It's not actually art.
We
Of,
agree to no show and tell, and what do? You do show and tell.
I'm showing off anyway. No, that's pretty much the last one. But talk about the art for Unmatched. Explain to it why, because I know you love the art in that.
Oh, I find the art phenomenal because for one thing, it matches the design. So the cards are all different colors at times, so you know whose is whose. The backs give me the reminder of each card deck of the classic books that they would come in that you would find on these classic book covers and stuff like that. And the art itself is on the other card side is phenomenal. Like you have Red Riding Hood. She's got a little pocket knife with blood coming off of it, and you can just see the dripping of it, and it actually looks like a character, not like the Funko eyes and stuff like that the ones you just showed. It
Yep.
actually looks like a normal character, and I like it. I don't know how way to describe it. It's very easy to understand, especially the bottom half of the card. Think of Magic the Gathering. You have really nice artwork in the top, and then you have what the card does at the bottom. Very easily descriptive. It tells you what to do. Red Riding Hood actually has an interesting thing that she plays with her discard pile. So on her card, she has another little symbol. And so when that's in your discard pile, the next card you play matches that symbol in the descriptive, then you get a bonus on that card.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean,
like, hey, if this flower symbol is in there, you get an extra attack. Or hey, if this wolf symbol is in there, you get to move an extra turn, or something like that. So it's interesting. I like that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. The art on it, and I think it's because it's licensed with Mondo, if I'm not mistaken,
Mm.
and there's a lot of like, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but don't they use that style art in a lot of
Mondo
like the
does some. Restoration gets their own artists to do it. They work with Mondo when it comes to it. They just changed over artists, if I remember correctly. I think the Buffy the Vampire Slayer is when they started using the new artist because the old artist got busy. But he did a phenomenal job that it blends well with the other games. But the art is just both sets of art look like they go together, and it's perfect.
Cool. Yeah, that's a distinct advantage. So if you like that custom art, the really stylized nature of it,
Mm-hmm.
looking for pretty, then yeah, I think Unmatched
With
makes
functional, don't forget, it's pretty, but it's functional, as I explained. So if
it's
you
pretty
like the
functional.
way Magic
Yeah,
the Gathering cards, because that's basically when you're coming to these kind of tactical games, how everybody tries to do it. You got some great artwork on top and the beautiful display at the bottom that makes it easy to read.
right. And then, but if you're okay with like the toy factor in a game, like say a Kid in the Shuffle, like it's not a
Mhm.
super heavy game. It's a great game, but it's there's some awesome toy factor, or even
Well,
like
when
the
you're not just
heavy.
going with the toy factor too, if you want to play, say, something with your 8-year-old that's simple to grasp, Funko is the way to go because one, it gives you that toy factor, which makes them intrigued, and two, it's simpler than Unmatched. Unmatched, I would say your son would do fine, but I would recommend it more for like teenagers or
Yeah,
people or children with a higher cognitive
yeah,
recollection that they can do critical thinking very well.
yeah. Who want to actually strategize their turn for
Yeah.
sure. So now you branched into it again. Let's talk about the gameplay. Let's talk about what the differences in the gameplay. How does how does Unmatched? They're both tactical skirmish games, which the
Hmm.
idea is that you have some dudes on this board. You're going to go over and basically fight the other dudes on the board, right?
Yeah.
Dudettes, you know, your characters fighting characters, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're both that same style. So if you know that you already like that, then you're probably already aware of at least one of these games. Now, are there any other comparisons that we can make about those two?
They both have a little bit of luck when it comes to gameplay
Okay.
in different ways. Your luck when Funkoverse really is the dice roll.
Yeah.
Because the way they use your powers is a cooldown system that I've seen other games starting to use now. It's where, hey, I use this, so it goes into 3-track, and then it comes back to me. I think that's a phenomenal mechanism to
Yep.
use. Whereas the luck that you're getting in, say, not Funkoverse, Unmatched, is the draw of the cards. That's your
Yeah.
luck. You shuffle the cards and you draw up. Well, if all I got is Dr. Watson cards in my hands, I'm not going to be able to do much with Sherlock right then and there. Or, oh, great, Sherlock is gone. He got knocked out early. And now all I'm drawing is I don't have any Dr. Watson cards. So that's where your luck is there. But it can be mitigated. Some allow you to mess with your deck and stuff like that. So there is that. Both, I would say Funkoverse has a little bit more luck than Unmatched, because Unmatched is about using your cards strategically. It's hand management more than, hey, play a card, do this and stuff like that. Do I use this card to boost? Do I use this card as an action like scheming, which will do some damage to people away? Or do I save it in my hand? This way I can block damage that might come at me after I do some damage to other people. So it's more about your hand management than, say, something like Funkoverse. They're both, at its core, knock the other person out and win.
Right. Yeah. When you boil it down to its pure concentrate of a game, that's all it is, right? Whereas Funkoverse, it's a step above that because well, I think a lot of the actual tactics and strategy is determining how you build your team of which characters you're playing with, because some characters actually work really well together, based on the
Well,
action
of
tokens.
course they do. That's why
Right.
they come in a 4-pack.
Well, agreed, but I'm saying like even outside of that, like a lot of the decision, if we were playing in a competitive setting, I would have the characters be draftable and which weapons that they can use because sure, like Doc and Marty work together, yes. But also Doc and say Rick from Rick and Morty might work really well together. I haven't actually tried that. But uh, determining how you build your team is actually a factor into it. Stop shaking your head because it's true. Like, I mean,
No, I'm not talking about that. You put Doc Brown and Rick from Rick and Morty together? No.
no, probably not. But like, there are some characters that work really well together.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
and
And it all comes down to the balancing issue. You got to make sure you balance things right. And so you got to make sure this character plays well with this character. It's kind of like a game. I know you don't like this, but I'm going to compare it to Smash Up. You got to make sure all these cards work well together. And sometimes it just doesn't work. You just need to make sure you find the right two decks that work, that have synergized to each other.
so actually, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. And so I would say like boiled down to its core, if you're like a card gamer and you like Magic the Gathering and like the really deep strategy of it, and Unmatched, obviously. But if you like something like Smash Up, that's just kind of like, oh, let's just see how these work together and smash them together, and then let's cause a little bit of chaos and absurdity. And I think you could lean more towards Funko.
I like that comparison more than your video game comparison. You like the strategy of Magic the Gathering? Play Unmatched. If you like this the chaos, hey, let's see how this works and this works.
Yeah,
Then yeah, Funko versus your game, which
yeah,
is fine. I'm not saying I hate Funkoverse. I've said it many times. My only issue with it is the Funko Pops.
yeah, yep, exactly. Stop getting defensive. I'm not calling you out on this. It's fine. No, I'm just saying like that. I think that comparison is an easy one to understand. The game that Funkoverse really takes after, it's very similar to. Let's do some comparisons real quick. If you like Crossmaster Arena, there's a good chance that you will also like Funkoverse. I feel it's actually simpler than Crossmaster because
Much simpler. I'll keep
yeah,
much simpler.
it's much simpler. But what I think does it really well is in Crossmaster Arena, you sure have the great figures, you have the battling system, very similar abilities, but Funkoverse got rid of hit points, and I think that's a really important thing. Like it sounds like well then what do you even do? Well, you knock them down, and if you hit them again, all you do is compare difference. You don't lose a number of points, which means that if I do a really powerful ability, the most I can do is knock you down if you're standing up. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
how much more powerful I am, I knock you down. If you're knocked down and I hit you again the same way, then you're knocked out for a couple rounds. You're actually placed on that cooldown track, which I think that's a really it's overly simple, but at the same time, I think that's elegant in how that works.
I think it works for what Funkoverse is trying to do because you want to play with family, with kids, with your children. And so if the children's getting detracted because they're out of the game while everybody else gets to play, that could be an issue where and
Right.
on Match, if you're playing teams, 2 versus 2, and one person gets knocked out, they just got to sit until the other person gets teamed up on and that finishes. And that's a big problem with Unmatched. And I'm not going to deny that fact, is that it does have player elimination that could be an issue. But if I would have to compare it, Magic the Gathering is one that you already said that is really well done. For an actual board game, I guess I would say something like we saw it earlier. a war game of some sort, or a super fantasy brawl where you're playing these cards to beat the other players. I really like Unmatched at 2 players, but I really enjoy it at 4 players because it's that same category. You're doing all this to work together and strategize how to do it, and that is a big thing for a lot of gamers, is they want to strategize. That's why there's this big old debate about Ameritrash games versus Euro games, and some people don't like the idea of them blending, some people love the idea of them blending, and it's just, that's what we're comparing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say, like, I would almost make the comparison of BattleCon or Exceed, like
See,
for the
I would make that comparison, but I've never played BattleCon, so I wouldn't know.
okay. Okay. Yeah, I would compare that to Unmatched a little bit more. It is definitely more tactical. There is more strategy.
If I had to compare it to a game I've played before, I would have to say Summoner Wars.
Okay. I can agree with that.
Because it's you versus somebody else. You're trying to strategize how best to put your units out there, or your character for this matter, and fighting them till one person stands, one's the winner, and using your card play as best to your ability. That's why I would compare it to Summoner Wars.
Yeah. Now let's talk about, there's one more factor that I want to talk about, and that's the community. Let's talk about the community itself, because one thing that I had looked on when I was researching this a little bit more, and I thought this was really great, there is a massive community of people who are making their own custom Funkoverse characters, because all you need is the mini pops, and they
Yeah,
make those. So why can't you? And so I've seen like them put like politicians, like, or like yeah, political leader versus completely different characters, like all sorts of really bizarre custom things. And people have made like these massive collections of custom figures where you can print out just the card, which is all you need. And if you have the pop, you can play really customized versions of Funkoverse.
yeah. Another one that I've been seeing people using, not just with the pops themselves, they'll get those little blind grab
Mhm.
characters that you get that aren't just Funko Pops. It's just the little blind grabs that you can find at the front of registers at FLGS's or comic book stores, Barnes and Noble. And
Yep.
I've seen people using those instead of Funko Pops because, again, they don't like Funko Pops, but they like the game. Another one, but for Unmatched, I see that. I see a lot of people, the community themselves, they paint those minis and they look really, really nice. I've seen, it's funny you mentioned it, when I was doing some research on this on BGG, first thing I saw is somebody 3D printed little card or cases for every single character. So it has one of those slide tops. So you keep everything for that character in one of those card cases. And I thought that was amazing. It's the first picture you find on Unmatched. The
That's
King Arthur one.
hmm. Okay. I didn't even think about three. I own a 3D printer, and I didn't even. I mean, granted, I
But I'm just
wouldn't.
saying, you have people doing that. Once organized play goes up, more than likely there's going to be tournaments for both of them. Honestly, I think they're both very well supported too, not just from the community, but from their people who are bringing them out. Restoration being, of course, for Unmatched, and Funkoverse for in Prospero Hall for Funko Pops for Funkoverse. That's going to get annoying quick.
Right. Funko Pop, Funkoverse for Funko, the company. Yeah. No, I agree. It's a little silly, and I just looked. There's not really much printable stuff for Funkoverse. It makes me sad, but that's okay. I wasn't gonna. I rarely print 3D print stuff for board games anyway.
No, but you'll have to look up the Unmatched ones I was telling you about. It's for the King Arthur, the Battle of the Legends. It's the first picture. It's
Okay.
card cases, and it has where you can put the dials, the characters, the little pucks, and it slides the top, and so they're like in little tuck boxes.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so like that's a way, though, for people out there who didn't listen to it, when we did talk to Rob Davio, he did mention that they are thinking about doing a big box to store everything for Unmatched.
Right. Yep. He definitely is possibly considering, or I've heard the suggestion.
Yeah, had heard the suggestion.
Yeah. I mean, granted, Ravensburger has made a nod for Disney Villainous, saying we definitely know of the want for a big box.
Oh, they
Anyway,
barely announced. It's funny because we were just talking about the other day, and you thought it was dead, and I'm like, they just announced the new expansion for it. So
yeah,
you're like, wait, what?
I'm gonna have to really get my Tetris skills on and see if I can put that into the base box because so far I have everything in one box.
I don't. I have one of the smaller boxes holding all the boards and a couple characters, and the big main box holding all the rest of the characters.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's getting tight, even with all the boards.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. That anyway, that has nothing to do with Funkoverse. Um, so I hope we brought up excuse me, some good points for you, and I hope we've made some adequate comparisons that this at least leads you in one of the directions or not.
Hmm.
Honestly, Daniel and I both like them both. I have my favorite. He has his favorite. I know why I like mine, which is silly because I would say I'm more of a Euro gamer than you,
Yeah, and
but
you're for some reason really in love with Funkoverse.
and I like Funkoverse more, and I think it really just I appreciate the toy factor and the silliness of what they're bringing to the table. I think that's really what it boils down to, why I like it more. So there we go. Do you have anything to add before we sign off?
Yes, I'm right. He's wrong. But all in all, like
Okay.
what you like, enjoy what you like. If you think everything we said pushes you to unmatched, don't hate the people who like Funkoverse because they like it. Let them enjoy it because everybody has a right to play what they want to play.
Hmm. That's absolutely right. So keep gaming. If you ever want to join in on our discussions, you certainly can. Join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames and you can watch us live.
As always, all these videos are re-uploaded Mondays and Wednesdays on YouTube at Everyday Board Games 2020. If you do find us on there, give us a like and a subscribe, as well as the audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. If you find us on one of those, go ahead and give us a follow. That helps us out greatly.
And if you ever want to watch, or if you ever want to give us suggestions or just comment to us directly, you can at everydayboardgames2020 @gmail.com.
And you can also find us on Twitter at EBG Podcast.
So as always, I've been Daniel,
And I've been Daniel.
and we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
Have a good one.